welcome into episode number 9 of the On the Farm podcast. I'm T.J. Mathewson alongside the brains of this podcast, Jeremy Buch. And Jeremy, now episode 9 on the season. We have some more exciting stuff coming up in the very near future. But with that, we do have some stuff to talk about today. We are officially, as this being episode 9, I believe there are 9 days or less left until opening day. Is it 7?
8.
8 days. All right, one off the episode number. But it's exciting time because opening day is around the corner. We can finally have some probably more consistent stuff every single day, or every single week at least. But up first, we have NL Central top 30s to break down. So we're going to start off this week, of course, NL Central. We're going to start off with the 2016 World Series champion Chicago Cubs. System not quite as stacked as it used to be, with the likes of what used to be down there, Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo, Gleyber Torres, Kyle Schwarber, Ian Happ, etc., all graduated to the majors, and now you look at their system, and it's very, very, very average. Not quite as stacked as it used to be. One guy I'm going to highlight from this system, Oscar De La Cruz, their third-ranked prospect. He is a right-handed pitcher. He signed with the Cubs October 1st, 2012. Originally as a shortstop, signed for $85,000, and they transitioned him to a pitcher mostly because of his really plus arm. He can go as high as 97 from the right side. He's 6'4", so he's definitely got it. He's got the stuff scouts just drool over for a pitcher. He's also got a power curveball, too. Problem is that's held him back, his injuries. He's only pitched, I believe, 39 innings. Yes, just 39 innings in 2016 because of forearm soreness. Last year, he showed up he was playing in high A, for the Cubs, a 4-3 record, 3.46 ERA, 12 games, 12 starts, 52 and 2/3 innings pitched. He struck out 47 and walked 13 in those 52 and 2/3 innings pitched, allowing a 263 average against. So in a somewhat weak farm system that the Cubs have, that is who I wanted to highlight for this week. Jeremy, what do you have?
Oh, how the mighty have fallen. The Chicago Cubs. Listen, I'm not trashing on what Theo Epstein did. He built a team that won and is still contending, very much so. They're at the top of their division last year and going into this year. But I'm going to highlight David Bote. He's a second base, third base outfielder, a little bit of a utility guy, similar to like a Ben Zobrist. Well, it's always a tough comp because Zobrist is such a great player. But he's 5'11", 185, 24 years old. His ETA is actually this year. He was an 18th round pick in 2012. I think that he could probably crack the roster. I'm going to guess probably mid-season. It kind of just depends on injuries and everything else, but he can fill in for anyone. He walked on at Liberty and then transferred to a community college, where he batted .419, stealing 20 stolen bases as a freshman. And then he really didn't make a huge impression until he batted .337 in A-ball in 2016, and then he hit 14 homers in Double-A the following year, and then continued to perform in the Arizona Fall League, he was leading in average for almost the entire league outside of Eric Falia on the Mariners. But overall, I think that he can really make an impact long-term. None of his skills really stand out. I mean, he has 3 grades at 50, but outside of that, he's just a good, gritty player, and I think he can really make an impact off the bench for a Cubs team later in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. So moving on to the Cincinnati Reds, I'm going to talk about probably the most popular guy in their farm system, someone by the name of Hunter Green out of Notre Dame High School in California, number 2 overall pick in the past MLB draft last June. Many people thought he was going to go number 1 overall with his combination of great pitching and being able to hit as a shortstop, another two-way player. I believe there was many players last year who got drafted being two-way, Brennan McKay being another one. He actually went to college and did it at Louisville. Hunter Green, straight out of high school. Green last year debuted for the Reds in their rookie league, club. Not a great start out for him. An 0-1 record, a 12.46 ERA. He started all 3 games, only pitched 4 1/3 innings. He struck out 6 and walked 1, 400 average allowed in those. His hitting statistics, not much better, only a 233 average. He didn't walk. He barely slugged at all. Only 3 combined extra base hits, 2 doubles and a triple, 7 total hits in 30 at-bats. So not a great start for him. Of course, just out of high school, he's got a lot to work on. He's the number 2 overall prospect in the Red system, and anytime you can get someone who can hit, play shortstop, and hit 100 on the mound, that's someone you're going to look at, and the Reds hope they can develop him down the stretch.
I'm going to go a little different here. I'm going to go with an outfielder by the name of Stuart Fairchild. He went to college at Wake Forest. He was their second-round pick this year. I think he's got a lot of potential, and I actually had him in an earlier episode as one of my sleeper prospects, just some guy that I see really taking over and potentially being a long-term outfitter for the Reds. My computer just doesn't want to load right now, but he definitely has a bat more so than a defensive ability. I think that the bat is what's going to carry him to the major leagues, and he'll learn how to play defense, which I think is probably the easier way to go about it rather than having to learn how to hit. So I think he can make a long-term impact. I think after Taylor Trammell and Jesse Winker both graduate from the minors, he will be the best outfield prospect in the Reds minor league system.
Moving on to the Brewers, this system recently, I'm forgetting the word, but Louis Brinson and Monte Harrison shipped out of this system for Christian Yelich. So the system not as strong as it used to be. Still some really, really good prospects in the system. So I'm going to highlight the Brewers' 7th-ranked prospect in this system, Corey Ray. Had a breakout campaign at Louisville as a sophomore, and then as a junior, 15 home runs and 44 steals, earning him the 5th overall draft pick in the 2016 draft. This past season, not a great season for him. He really struggled with the strikeouts, 449 at-bats, 156 strikeouts, only a 238 average. He did walk a little bit, a 311 on-base percentage with that 238 average. But it says that he's projected to have a plus bat average-wise and power-wise when he gets to the major leagues. He is already 23, and his ETA is 2019, so expect to see him in the major leagues sometime next year. Not around this time next year, but sometime in next season. But Corey Ray, for a system that is purged a little bit, someone to look out for the Brewers.
My only knock on Corey Ray is obviously the average is an issue, but he's a good kid. I think he can turn it around. I'm going to focus on a guy actually behind the dish, KJ Harrison. He's a catcher. He was drafted 3rd round in 2017, 84th overall by Milwaukee. He was an Oregon State player in college, so they obviously have quite a legacy. Yeah, a little legacy there. He is a below-average runner, which really doesn't mean as much. I don't really know a lot of above-average runners that are catchers. But he ended up having a 904 OPS with 29 home runs in 3 seasons with Oregon State. And he's definitely a bat-first guy. In the rookie league, he struck out 55 times, walked 23 times, but also clubbed 10 home runs, drove in 33 runs, 14 doubles, had a 308 average with a over 380 on base percentage. He's an absolute monster behind the plate, and defensively, I think he's going to be good but not amazing. I think that's something he's definitely going to grow with. I can kind of compare him to Yasmani Grandal, which however you feel about Yasmani Grandal is how you're going to feel about that, but on the idea that he's a better offensive catcher than he is defensively, I think his ETA is 2020, so still got a couple more years, but I definitely think he could be a valuable piece for this club. Probably rank him as their number 1 catcher. I know Nottingham's in the system. I just don't like him all that much.
I thought he played first. I remember him playing first at Oregon State, but I must be wrong. He was the model of consistency at Oregon State, an average of at least 260 every season. In fact, a 309 average as a freshman, 265 as a sophomore, 313 as a junior, at least 9 home runs every year, 10 home runs as a freshman, 10 as a sophomore, and 9 as a junior. So KJ Harrison, model of consistency. Was fun watching him last year with the Oregon State squad that absolutely ran through the regular season before losing to LSU in the College World Series. Moving on to the Pirate system, someone I want to highlight, Shane Baz. He was a two-way standout at Concordia Lutheran High School in Texas. Jumped him into the just outside of the top 12 in the 2017 draft, 12th overall by the Pirates, number 67 on MLB Pipeline, and the 3rd overall prospect in the Pirate system last year. And the Pirates Rookie League affiliate had a decent ERA at 3.8, but an 0-3 record, only 23 and 2/3 innings pitched, 19 strikeouts and only 14 walks, and a 289 batting average allowed. Those are numbers that you look at and go like, oh my, that's not great. But then you look at his age, he's 18 years old, and he's got plenty of time to develop in the Pirate system, which has produced some pretty good, couple of pretty good pitchers that are currently in the major leagues. Garrett Cole is one of them. So something to look out for, just someone to watch their term of development. He does have a plus fastball from the left side, from the right side, so that is something to look at. He's got, of course, the perfect pitcher profile, 6'3", 190. So Pirates fans, something to look forward to.
I'm a little upset he cut his hair. I'm not going to lie to you. He used to have those Syndergaard-looking locks, and he had to cut it. But I'm going to focus on an outfielder here in the Pirate system. Actually, newly acquired. He was part of the Andrew McCutchen trade. It was Brian Reynolds coming back. And Reynolds, right now, he was in high A ball. He was drafted 2nd round in 2016 after the Giants had to forfeit their 1st-round pick after signing Jeff Samardzija. Brian went to Vanderbilt, so that just kind of tells you there's a prowess behind Vanderbilt athletes and just baseball players specifically. But he hit 312 in high A ball, 26 doubles, 10 home runs, 63 RBIs, walked 37 times. He struck out 106, but still managed to have that average pretty high. So I don't know how he did it, but we'll see. He was on-base percentage was a 3.64, and his OPS about 8.26. So, I mean, nothing out of this world, but he definitely has the ability to hit for power. So overall, I think his only weakness is probably his arm from the outfield. But I think long-term, the Pirates, despite not getting, I guess, a top guy in return for McCutchen, they still got a very, very nice piece in the outfield for if Starling Marte decides to go have some more PEDs or whatever else happens. But I think he'd be a long-term replacement, and I think he's a very, very nice player to have in that system.
So speaking of outfielders, moving to the Cardinal system, someone I'm pretty familiar with him being in the Mariners system and watching him come up through the Mariners system before they traded him last June, or July actually it was, during the trade deadline. Tyler O'Neill. So Tyler had Tyler's a great example of someone who took time and just watching the progression of him throughout his minor league career. Drafted out of high school in the 3rd round by the Mariners. Number 94 on MLB Pipeline's top 100 prospect. He is your he's your prototypical power strikeout guy. 30 home runs combined in the minors last year while striking out over 151 times. That's going to concern you with the strikeouts, but he also showed an improved walk rate while going through the Mariners system from his time in AA to his time up in AAA, and I wasn't very happy with the Mariners trading him last year because I think he can be a decent corner outfielder in the major leagues if he can make just enough contact to hit 25 home runs a season and contribute to an everyday lineup. But I'll never get to see that happen in the Mariners uniform. Marco Gonzalez ensued, former number 1 prospect, in fact, in the Cardinal system back in 2014. So, Tyler O'Neill, definitely a plus power bat and someone who I think can contribute at the major league level. The dude has some legit power. Saw him at spring training last year playing at a backfields game. He got jammed on a pitch inside, and the dude still hit it off the wall in center field. Like, he has some legit power, and it's something to see.
God, Marco Gonzalez for Tyler O'Neill.
Hey, Marco's shown out this spring, so if he can actually contribute, get some major league wins, just be decent, I won't complain too much. But as of right now, not a lot to like about this trade. But
we're just gonna take a quick little drop off right here. Jerry DiPoto just does not let people actually develop. He just keeps flipping them, hoping that something else happens.
For old veterans.
But moving on, we're going to get back to this NL Central breakdown.
You can have a whole episode on that if you want.
Before TJ has an actual mental breakdown over here. The Cardinals are probably one of my favorite teams when it comes to just consistently replenishing their farm while putting out a very above average team every year, in my opinion. And I think that there's actually a book called The Cardinals Way. It's by Howard Megdal. I would highly recommend, if you guys are listening, to definitely read that book. The Cardinals have had the best track record with putting the Moneyball mentality where they're not going to go out and sign all these huge contracts, but they end up getting these guys that make an impact on their team for long enough where they can win and succeed. Like right now, they're underdogs to win the division, or just underdogs in general to make the playoffs, and they won 83 games last year. Back to the prospect route of this. I'm going to focus on two right-handed pitchers, actually. The first one being Dakota Hudson. He's currently assigned to AAA. His ETA is actually this year. He's 23 years old, 6'5", 215. He was the Cardinals' first-round pick, 34th overall in 2016. He has a 60 slider, 65 fastball, 50 curveball, 50 changeup. He has a lot of pitches to use, a nice arsenal. He was a junior at Mississippi State, and the fact that he fell out into the late first round still surprised me to this day. In 2017, in AA Springfield, went 9-4, 2.53 ERA through 18 games, 114 innings pitched, and he had 77 strikeouts to 34 walks. And then in the PCL in Memphis, had a little bit more of a struggle, but he was 1-1 with a 4.42 ERA through 7 games, 38 innings pitched, and 19 strikeouts to 15 walks. I think he has a great future as a 3 or 4 starter long term in this Cardinals rotation, because obviously Wainwright will be heading out of this rotation fairly soon, but it's mostly going to be Alex Reyes, Jack Flaherty, Luke Weaver, just a lot of guys. Hudson can be a phenomenal back-of-the-end rotation guy. I see a lot of potential with him. And then the second guy, his name, Ryan Helsley. It took me a long time to figure that out. I don't know why.
His name is Hell. No more puns.
Yeah. But Ryan, 6'1", 195, a fifth-round pick in 2015 by the Cardinals. His pitches are not as highly rated by scouts, but he was we went to college in Division II Northeastern State in Oklahoma, and he's actually the first player from that school to make it to the minors. I see a lot of potential with him. He went 8-2 with a 2.69 in Palm Beach High A ball through 17 games, 93 innings pitched. He struck out 91, walking 30, and then he got sent up to. He actually made it from High A to Double A to Triple A by the end of the year. But overall, through all three, 11-3 record, 2.72 ERA, 24 games, 132 innings, 137 strikeouts to 48 walks. I think that should just speak for itself.
I think he'll be the first person from that school to also make the major leagues.
Yeah, no, it's going to be crazy. I don't want to get too ahead of myself. Obviously, injuries happen, and God forbid it does. But on the off chance it does, I think he could be very, very special, whether he's part of a trade piece for something else or whether he's part of their rotation. We'll see. But I think those two definitely have the best potential long term. That is going to wrap it up for our rankings or our prospect list breakdowns. We're going to start off our next topic as number one prospect for the A's. A.J. Puck was shut down and sent down with a bicep injury. They're calling it bicep soreness. He should be back resuming throwing fairly soon. He was actually having a pretty good spring training, though. He allowed 4 runs in 10 and 2/3 inning work. God, I'm losing it. 10 and 2/3 innings of work. And I think that he's going to be amazing. He has a 2-seamer around 93, 94, and also a 4-seam fastball around 97, 98. He was showing plenty of that. This is a big blow, just in the sense that obviously it's not long term, but if he could have kept that until the end of spring training, gotten his confidence really, really up there. He ended up making it from double. He made it he started off in Double A last season, went back down to High A Stockton. He has the stuff. It's whether or not he ends up executing it properly, because he played in the futures game and I saw a future ace. Like, I don't know if that's just eye test. I don't know what you want to call that. His ERA was, or his ETA was this year. The kid's 6'7", 220. He's an imposing force on the mound. I really, really want to see what they want to do with him if they put him right in AAA. Maybe he's on the roster by mid-season, but I think he has to come up this year if they want to use that clock with the service time. So be it. You got to have this guy on your major league roster, even if you don't want to contend. Just get him some innings, get him some major league at bats, because right now he could easily be the ace for this team, and it's not close. People are like, "Oh, Sean Manaea, Daniel Megden, those guys are not anywhere close."
Gerald Cotton
Also got hurt. He Tommy John's now. Tommy John's.
I saw that. Yeah.
So sad. So sad. But
thin A's roster.
Yeah, God. One of the is not thin with Billy Beane at the helm there.
Almost as thin as the Mariners.
Jeez. So enough AL West talk. We're gonna get into Baseball America. Actually released an interesting article that I was reading about rebuilds and how everybody's kind of like jealous of where the Astros are now, where the Cubs are now. Well, more so the Astros. They really built from within. And there was 3 categories they listed: rebuilds, what they call ready to land, rebuilds en route, and rebuilds just beginning. So we'll start off with the rebuilds ready to land. There are 4 teams that they listed: the Braves, the White Sox, the Phillies, and the A's. TJ, who's your pick for most ready to land?
I'm going to say the Braves. Now, this could be much debated with the White Sox, of course. But the Braves, I believe, will overall have the best player, Ronald Acuna. If you've seen the guy in spring training, like, this dude's a stud. Like, he will be on the superstar level once he makes it. The only reason he's getting sent down to AAA right now is service time. So he can spend 6 weeks in the minors and get an extra year on his contract when he comes to the major leagues, just like the same thing the Cubs did with Chris Bryant. And you look at some of the pieces they already have in the major leagues. You saw Luis Gohara get some time this year, power arm from the left side. You see Dansby Swanson entering, I think this is going to be his second full season as shortstop for the Braves. Former number 1 overall selection from the Arizona Diamondbacks. They have a stud in center field and Ender Inciarte. They have Freddie Freeman at first base. I mean, they have young talent everywhere, and it's only going to get better when these guys from the minor leagues, such as Acuna, Kyle Wright, Ian Anderson, Austin Riley, Max Fried, etc., all graduate to the major leagues, and they're going to be the next force to be reckoned with in the NL East, especially with Bryce Harper's probably going to be leaving the Nationals next year. And, Nationals have spent all this time trying to win a playoff series, and they still can't. And I think the Braves are going to outdo them in a couple seasons. So that is my pick for most ready to land.
So I definitely agree. The Braves are very, very far in their rebuild mode. They've done a great job. Just to kind of give you guys some insight to Ronald Acuna's numbers in spring training. In 44 at-bats, he's hit .432, .519 on base, a 1.247 OPS, 4 home runs, 11 RBIs. So he is absolutely a stud, like TJ said. There's plenty of potential for that team, but I'm actually going to go a different route here. I'm going to pick the Philadelphia Phillies. While I feel like the Braves are close, I still feel like there's a little bit more to piece together. I feel like the Phillies, looking at their overall depth chart, having a nice veteran in Carlos Santana, Cesar Hernandez, soon to be Scott Kingery. I'm sorry, Cesar Hernandez, move over. Scott Kingery is just going to be better. Their second base prospect, who was in AA and AAA last year, he'll be up. J.P. Crawford, Maikel Franco, Rhys Hoskins out there and left, who I really have not seen him not hit a home run since he came up.
That's fair.
Abudel Herrera / Aaron Altair, whatever you want to put in center, and then Nick Williams in right. And that's just their position players. You now have Jake Arrieta anchoring your rotation with Aaron Nola, Jared Eichhoff, I guess Vincent Velasquez, Nick Pivetta. They have a lot of young guys coming up, Mark Leiter Jr., but I kind of want to focus on their future. In a couple years, maybe 2, you're going to have Sixto Sanchez, who they're comparing to Pedro Martinez. He's 19 years old. His ETA is 2019. And sure, he didn't have the greatest year in Clearwater last year, but he's a 70 fastball and 60 control at 19. That's only going to develop even more. Adonis Medina, another righty. He's 21. He's supposed to be up by 2019. He has a 60 slider, a 60 fastball, 50 slider, 55 changeup. 2 guys that could easily be impact guys if you don't feel like the rotation's there. If you want more, you have 2 future stars in the outfield, and Adam Hazley, their first-round pick this year, and then number 1 overall pick in 2016, Mickey Moniak. Those 2 guys. Jorge Alfaro behind the dish. There's just so much depth in this system, so many players already ready to perform at the major league level. I think they are the team that is most ready to land. Moving on to the rebuilds and route, I think I know where TJ's going to go with this, but TJ, where are you going?
So I believe the Padres do have the number 1 system in baseball, right?
Yes.
It is the Padres. So yeah, that's who I'm picking. So rebuilds and route. I think the Padres are already well en route. Of course, as we just mentioned, the number 1 farm system in baseball. And when you have these 2 studs at the top of your farm system, Fernando Tatis Jr. and Mackenzie Gore, it's kind of hard to go wrong. And plus, the studs you already have up in the major league level, Manny Margot, Hunter Renfroe, and company, like, how do you complain? Hunter Renfroe's only going to get better. Manuel Margot's only going to get better, both their first seasons. And I saw Tatis this spring, like, when he played against the Mariners. Dude, 6'3", 185, and casually went oppo over the bullpens in right field, opposite field. Like, the dude has legit power. And Mackenzie Gore, top draft pick from last year, third overall to the Padres. I mean, 1.27 ERA in rookie ball, 21 and a third innings, 34 strikeouts in 21 and a third innings. Oh my God. And this kid's only going to get better. He's only 19. Of course, his ETA is still 2 seasons away, but oh my. Like, could you have asked for anything more? Plus the guys they already have up in the top of their system? I don't think so. They're my rebuild in route.
This was a tough choice because the other 2 teams are the Reds and the Rays. I feel like with both of these teams, the position players are not the issue. It's more of the pitching, current and future, because with the Rays, you obviously have a current rotation with Chris Archer, Blake Snell, Jacob Faria, and if Brett Honeywell did not go down with Tommy Johns, that's a pretty formidable rotation. But right now, if I had to pick one that's better en route, I'm going to go with the Reds. A lot of people may not agree with me on that, but I feel like the Reds right now, they're going to have an easy first ballot Hall of Famer in Joey Votto at first. They're going to have Jose Peraza at short. They're going to have somebody else besides Scooter Gennett at second. I would probably assume Shed Long, or maybe they want to move Nick Senzel there. They have so many options to have there. They might even move Peraza back to second and put Nick Senzel at short. I mean, Nick Senzel, I've been able to watch him. He's been playing short and third base. I think he has a lot of potential to be a great long-term player in Cincinnati. And then their outfield is absolutely stacked. You have Billy Hamilton, who's probably, I'm going to say it, he's the fastest player right now. I think if you put him and D. Gordon in a foot race, D. Gordon at 30 is not beating probably 26-year-old Billy Hamilton. But you have him, Scott Schebler, Jesse Winker, Phillip Ervin, Adam Duvall, And then they just extended Tucker Barnhart, who I think is an above-average catcher. And the rotation obviously is not the greatest right now. They don't have a whole bunch of guys that are going to serve you right now, but I think Brandon Finnegan is probably going to be the leader of that rotation as much as people don't like him. I think that if he gets the run support, he can be good if he can get back to his Kansas City days before the Johnny Cueto trade. Luis Castillo can be in that rotation, Sal Romano. I have Tyler Mahle and then Amir Garrett rounding it out. Those guys are all still young and have a bunch of time left to grow. There's no need to win immediately, which is nice. And then obviously Hunter Green, like TJ touched on. He'll be up 2021. It's a couple years down the road, but that'll probably be the time they're contending for a playoff spot, if not a World Series championship. I think there's a lot of depth in this rotation or in this system, pitching-wise. So if one guy doesn't work out, I think there are plenty of guys to fill in the holes. I like them better as my en route rebuild. We're going to move on to the rebuilds just beginning. TJ, where are you going?
So, if you did this at the end of last season before any trades happened, I'd say this is a really, really difficult one. The three selections that we were given is the Detroit Tigers, Kansas City Royals, Miami Marlins. Like I said, at that point it would be very hard to decide, but after the Marlins flipped Marcelo Ozuna, Giancarlo Stanton, and Christian Yelich, their farm system all of a sudden, after I think their farm system was pretty bare to start with, it's pretty decent now. Lewis Brinson at number 1, Monte Harrison, Sandy Alcantara, Jorge Guzman, Braxton Garrett, Trevor Rogers. That's just their first 6. Some good names there. And I just they're far. Despite the fact they traded away their best players, obviously, and they're not going to be good. And of course, it takes time to rebuild, but. When you have those 3 young outfielders that you can trade away, you can get some good stuff back, and I think that just jumpstarts them immediately ahead of the pack. And I think they're most likely the farthest of those 3 teams, the farthest along in terms of their rebuild already.
And again, for the third time, I'm going to disagree with you, TJ. I'm going to go with the Detroit Tigers. Obviously, right now on the field, there's not a lot to like outside of Michael Fulmer. Miguel Cabrera, Jaimer Candelario is one of my favorites, but I don't know if a lot of people know about him. And I that's pretty much it. There's not a whole bunch of great starters, so this team needs a lot. But guess what? Believe it or not, they have 4 primetime starters, probably number 1s and number 2s, just sitting in their minor leagues right now. 1, 2, 3, 4. Franklin Perez, who was the main piece of the Justin Verlander trade, he's 20. His ETA is 2019. I think he'll be ready as a 60 grade fastball, 60 grade curveball, 50 slider. That's enough to get the job done for me as a top of the rotation guy. He's 95, 96 for his fastball, usually around 92, 94, which is great. Then you have Matt Manning, who was a first-round pick in 2016, their 9th overall pick, 6'6", 190. His ETA is 2020. In A-ball in Western Michigan, he went 2-0. His ERA was a little rough, but I kind of touched on this in last week's episode. A lot of players are pitching more to the statistics than just pitching for situational baseball. I think that ERA will just go down. Alex Faedo out of Florida, the first-round pick in 2017, 6'5", 225, a big guy. Hasn't played just yet after a minor knee surgery before then, and then just kind of some precautionary reasons. He sits right around 93, touches 95 with a great sinker ball, actually. And then Bo Burrows being the 4th. Those 4 guys with Michael Fulmer can be a great rotation if they decide to keep Michael Fulmer. You also have Kyle Funkhauser if you even want to throw him in there. And then Jake Rogers, probably the best defensive player in the minors. I'm going to go out and say it. He's a catcher. He was also part of the Justin Verlander trade. Daz Cameron, the 3rd part of it. He's the outfielder. He is the son of Mike Cameron, former Major League player. Duel Lugo, Derek Hill, not anybody like standing out to names that everyone will know, but a lot of these guys can contribute and they can build around these younger core. Nick Castellanos is still young, But if they can keep him and build up, I think there's a great future for this team. They have the number 1 pick this year, which I think is going to help because that's most likely, I mean, from what everybody's saying right now, Brady Singer. I think it could go some other ways, but right now, you put Brady Singer in there, you have your 5 starters long term.
You have your 5 starters in 10 years.
Yeah, no, not even 10. I think it could be 5. I really have a lot of faith in this Tigers organization since they've stopped being Dombrowski'd. And now it's happened to the Red Sox, which we'll see how that goes in about 5 years when they're like crabbling at the bits for Hanley Ramirez to be good still, or Andrew Benintendi barely hanging on by a thread.
Hey, David Ortiz, you want to come out of retirement?
Yeah, I listen. I don't think it's out of the question at that point, but that's gonna do it for the show today.
Yeah, so that will wrap up episode number 9 of the On the Farm podcast. Of course, you can follow us both on Twitter. Of course, you can follow the show on Twitter at On the Farm Show, and you can figure out what our Twitters are through that. With that, be sure to check out all of our episodes on SoundCloud and also on YouTube, and be sure to look out for we're interviewing someone of let's say a special someone coming up in the near future, so be on the lookout for that. With that, for myself, T.J. Mathewson, and Jeremy Buch, thank you all for listening, and be sure to tune in next time. 'Cause I'm TNT.